third Avatar. A visual spectacle, no doubt about it. But is there anything deeper to be found in the film? Or is this really the worst installment in the series? Hello everyone, welcome to the Level Kino channel, where we discuss movies, TV series and games. If you're interested in these topics, be sure to subscribe. But now, without further ado, let's dive into the video. When the first Avatar came out in 2009, I was thrilled. The beautiful colors and the revolutionary 3D at the time were so enjoyable to watch that I was able to forgive its unoriginal story and forgettable characters. The second installment took 13 long years to come out, and when I went to the theater to see the movie, it was like being back in 2009 with the first one. Once again, excellent colors, a beautiful world and great 3D, which, unlike other films that copied the first Avatar, was well thought out and added something to the film. But once again, the negatives were repeated. A cliché story and characters that were more like puppets serving the plot than heroes with deep personalities. However, I was able to forgive the film for this because it was simply a feast for the eyes. And now we come to the third installment, which arrives 3 years after the second, and I have to say that something has changed. I can no longer forgive the film for its shortcomings, even though the positives remain unchanged. Once again, it's all beautifully colored and looks great, but that's not enough for me anymore. This is because there is less time between the second and third installments than between the first and second, so I still have the predecessor fresh in my memory, which means I can see how similar all these films are to each other and how they bring nothing new to the table. In some aspects, the third installment is even worse. Avatar 3 is not Avatar 3, but rather Avatar 2.5, or rather Avatar 2.25, because it is so similar to The Way of Water that they are practically impossible to tell apart. The creators promised that each part would focus on a different element. The first was forest, the second was water, and this one was supposed to be fire, but as soon as you finish watching the film, you realize that this is a lie. Yes, there are new evil avatars, painted slightly red, living near a volcano, but that's where the similarity to fire ends. The film takes place mostly near water, just like the second one. The final battle seemed exactly the same to me as in the second part, again taking place by the water. I even had the feeling that I had definitely seen the scene where the whale launches at the ship to destroy it in the previous part. In addition to repeating the previous installment, the film also repeats itself. The same conflicts, relationships between characters and decisions. Someone is captured by someone else, and then someone else saves them at the last minute. This happens about 3 times in the film, so you know that nothing bad will happen to the characters, and it prolongs the already massive 3-hour running time. Which is different from the other parts, but not in a good way, is the nature of some of the characters. While they used to be clichés, at least they were likable, but this time all their charisma has disappeared. They hate each other within their own family, and the whole thing comes across as very unpleasant. Definitely not something I would want to watch just before Christmas. In addition, the character of Spider was given a much more screen time than in the previous film, which unfortunately meant that we discovered just how annoying he is. I honestly can't believe that someone read his dialogue in the script and approved it. And the last thing I want to talk about is the new clan of avatars, which I already mentioned a little. They are the most interesting part of the film. Well, their leader is, because the others are just background characters and none of them even have names. However, this leader, named Warong, adds much needed diversity and atmosphere to the film, because if Miles had been the only evil character for the third time, I probably would have left the theater in the middle of the film. She is dark and evil in a way we are not used to in the series. Whereas previously the main motivations of the villains were indifference to nature or indigenous culture, this time it is resentment towards God. The clan turned to evil after a volcano destroyed their forest, and they felt that Ava had turned her back on them, which is reflected in the development of Jake's daughter Kerry, who, on the contrary, is searching for God. But beware, it all sounds more interesting than it really is. The film just skims over these things and doesn't explore them in any depth. That can actually be said about the whole series. It seems to be heading somewhere, that Jake's daughter Kitty is some kind of chosen one, connected to the god Pandora and her savior, but so far, in 3 films, we haven't gotten much to discuss this theory further, and instead, it relies on the fact that it doesn't matter as long as it looks nice and pushes film technology to its limits. In any case, I don't know if this gamble will pay off for the creators, because it looks like even though the film will make a lot of money, it will be a little less than the previous installment, and if this trend continues, Disney could find itself in a difficult situation, considering how expensive these films are and how much they have to earn to even pay for their development. So I think that for the next part something needs to change. We need more focus on the story and its depth instead of just pretty visuals. My verdict is therefore 6 out of 10. If you like the previous installments, you will like this one too, unless, like me, you get bored of pretty colors without any substance after the 3rd time.